everybody, it's me Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. I'm excited for you to be here. Today is my first how to paint something. I'm going to try to do more of these videos. I'm still kind of learning how to edit and work with videos, so please bear with me. I posted on my Facebook page and my Instagram the other day a poll, a vote, and what you guys wanted to learn to paint from me first. I posted phases of the moon, starry sunset, or a fox, and you guys, there was just hands down so many votes for phases of the moon, so that's what I'm going to start with. This will be what we're going to paint today. This is phases of the moon, and I will walk you through the steps through prepping your canvas, drawing your moons, painting them, and then finishing the painting. So I think that's all I have for now. So I hope you enjoy this video. By the way, if you have any tips for how I can improve my video life, please leave them in the comments. I appreciate it very much. I love constructive, friendly criticism. Because I am always, as an artist, trying to improve. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so first things first, we need to prep our canvas. I have here just a plain white canvas, store-bought. It's already slightly prepped, so they say when you buy these canvases. However, I always like to apply a couple more layers of gesso to my canvases. In this case, I'm going to be adding or painting a layer of this black gesso because I always start with black. Black gesso if I'm going to be painting something dark, such as the night sky or moon phases, which is what this painting is going to be. That's what everybody voted for. Thank you for voting for that, by the way. Yeah, so I just take a wide acrylic brush, pour a little bit on my little palette thingy here, and paint away. Paint that and let it dry. So let's get to that. Okay, so to draw moon phases, you only need two things. You need a ruler and a compass. Well, a compass and pencil. So that's three things. Okay, three things. I don't typically use a whole lot of I'm very free-flowing when I paint. I usually have something in mind and then I just go from there. However, with moon phases, you really want to be precise, at least, because that's going to make them look a lot nicer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure across. I know that this is 20 inches across, so I'm trying to find the exact middle of this piece. So I'm going to mark off 10 inches here, and 10 inches here, okay? And then we're just going to try to find the center of our painting, right? So I've got a little line here, and then it's 10 inches up and down. So I'm going to look for 5 inches, which is here. And there. And then just creating a little place for us to, you know what, that doesn't look right. Does that not look right? Oh, it does. I guess I'm off a little bit because of how I'm sitting. I'm trying to make it so you guys can see what I'm doing. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and draw this line across the entire painting because we're doing phases of the moon. And so I want to be able to have the same middle for each phase. So again, marking at 5 inches, just so we have the general as close to exact middle as possible. So you can kind of see that, right? Phases of the moon are actually really easy to draw. All you really need, and if you don't have a compass, by the way, you can just use something that is circular, depending on how big you want to, do your moons. You can just trace, but with a compass you have a little more freedom to pick how big you want them to be. And then you just draw. You decide the size of your moon. Okay? The full moon, I always like to do a little bit bigger because it's kind of a little more interesting, maybe? Is that mean to say about the other moons? I don't know. I just really like the full moon because you get to add a little more detail and stuff. Actually, I'm gonna go a little bigger. And again, the spacing and the size, that's really up to you. And your preference, your little taste in what you're feeling for these moons. And I'm gonna be drawing the moons facing in towards the full moon. So there's different ways to do it. You can have them facing out or you can have them facing in, but I think with what I want to do, I'm going to have them facing in. So that's kind of easy for us, actually. And I'm going to do the outer moons a little smaller, so they'll be small, 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 and building up to this full moon, if that makes any sense. Okay, so pick how close you want to be to the edge of your painting. I like to leave a little bit, at the edge of my painting, maybe ½ inch. As long as it's the same on the other side, so that we're nice and even. Okay. And this is our crescent moon. This is the tiniest, newest crescent moon. So I draw an almost full circle, okay? And you gotta be careful if you're using a compass too, because you might poke your canvas. I'll show you. I just rub it out to fix it. And then to make it a crescent, you move within that moon, and I'm gonna just move ½ inch. So my center is here, okay? I'm going to move ½ inch to the right. Okay, we're facing this moon towards our full moon. And this is kind of an experiment. This is a little bit of play. Like, how crescent-y do you want your moon to look? You can see that I've just got here this nice small, tiny crescent moon. Okay, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. And I'm also going to erase at this point the extra. So there, you see our little moon, big moon. Okay, so I'm going to move over and do the other side. We want to be doing, do this side and then do the other side so you can make sure everything's even and nice. Okay, so I marked off about ½ inch on this side, so I'm going to go over here and mark off ½ inch on this side. And you want to make sure that you're exact same size. So I'm going to come back over here and make sure I get my compass back to the right side there. Okay, then we start here. Alrighty, draw our circle most of the way open. And then we moved on this side about it looks like a little more than ½ inch. Okay. That looks about right. Okay, and then we have our other little crescent over here. Erase the extra. And the reason you want to erase the extra is because you need to now start measuring how far and how many moon phases you want to do. So I typically do about 7 moon phases. I do the new moon, the half moon, the gibbous moon, the full, and then waning gibbous, waning half, waning crescent. And so we have a tight spot on this canvas, but I think we can make this work here. So again, there are no exact measurements. This is just how I do it. I just kind of freestyle and decide what looks good, a lot of erasing and a lot of changing my mind. But I do want to show you guys a little bit of this. And I am going to actually make my canvas, my compass a little bit bigger because I do want to grow my moons a little bit as they're getting to the full moon. I think what I might do is actually my gibbous moon next. So I'm just going to feel it out, and really that's all it is, my friends. Like it's really not that interesting. There's a lot of just kind of playing around. I may only have room for 5 moons here, which kind of bugs me. I could make my full moon smaller and give myself a little room here, but I kind of like the bigger moon. I really want a bigger moon. So I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna probably just put the moons super close to each other. Maybe that's what I'll do. Is this gonna be a half moon? Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll start here. This is my process. You kind of have to sort of just be willing to play and figure out what you like and don't like. And kind of trying to decide, like this doesn't give me room for a gibbous moon here. But I do want to show you guys this part of the process because really it's a lot of experimentation, and I think to be a good artist, you really have to be open to just playing and experimenting a little bit. So I think what I'll do is I will stop the camera here and figure this out so you don't have to sit with me in silence and me going too often. Okay? Alrighty. So yeah, alright. I'm gonna just sort of hyperspeed through this part. Okay. Okay, so we're ready to paint our moon phases. We've got them drawn and spaced the way we want them to be. And all you're gonna need to paint these is some black and some white. The black I use this is called Mars Black. It's, let's see, the brand is Grumbacher. I just get this from Michael's. And then, you know, your basics, white. I use a lot of the basics paints, but not all of them. There's some that I like to kind of upgrade a little bit. There's some colors, I should say, that I like to spend a little bit more on, but for the most part, the basics paints work pretty good. I use this old yogurt container for my water, and you want to have that close by, because with acrylic paint you have to water it down. You got to use your water with your paints in order to get the texture that you want. or the consistency of paint that you want to work with. And then I just have a jar of brushes, various sizes. I don't spend a whole lot on my brushes. That's just something about me. I don't know. It's really, I think it's a preference, whatever you prefer. Because I'm quite messy and I ruin a lot of brushes, so I don't really like to spend a lot on them. And the last thing is some paper towels or a rag that you can wipe your brushes off on. So yeah, we'll just get started. I'm going to water down, and I put my water where you can see it so you can kind of see how often I utilize the water with the paint. And this is, again, this is just something that you have to sort of figure out with time what the consistency is that you like your paints to be. With acrylic paints, you work in layers. That's a really important thing to know about the paints. So they can be a little bit see-through, and you want them to be a little bit see-through because that is the style of painting that you're doing. You're going to learn how to, or the way that I paint and the way that you will learn, at least through these videos with me, is how to layer your paints. So start with a fairly thin paint, and we'll just start painting our moons. The way I paint, I typically will paint from dark to light. But for some reason it helps me. I don't know if this is just me, but I do like to start with a light base and then work dark to light, again, if that makes sense. That's just how I've been able to figure out my own way of learning, just shadows and light. But if you know differently, then of course you can do it your own way. But this is how I do it. So I'm just going to add a layer of white. I'll start with white, and we'll kind of look and see what our spacing looks like. And whether or not we like it, like what we've created, the space anyways, if we need to move some things maybe. Another thing I like that I don't know is I like an angled brush. My brushes, a lot of the ones I use most, have this like angle on them. And I don't know, again, I think that's just, that offers me some control that I like when it comes to my work, my paints. The other thing is I'm gonna be, when it comes to something like the moons like this, I like to, when we're looking at a degree of symmetry in our piece, I like to bounce back and forth. So I'll work here, and then I'm going to do here, here, and then just be bouncing back and forth so that I can stay even with what I'm doing. Okay, and I'm going to go in and paint my little moon, so I'm going to get a different brush, a smaller brush. And this one requires a degree of control, so I'm going to scoot it and get it closer to it. Because the crescent moons, the tiny little crescent moons, are actually the hardest moons in my opinion. Because the slightest little bit outside of the line and the shape, and you have a whole different, it's really easy to lose your shape in these little things. have to be really precise. Now, I'm not a super precise like painter. That's never been my style at all. In fact, I prefer to be really free-flowing. But I do every once in a while, like, I feel like it benefits my brain to get really precise like this. It's like, oh yeah, I can do these things too. Because sometimes I forget that, like, oh, I can do detailed work. I can do, you know, small things. I prefer larger art. It's easier for me. I feel like I get more my style across easier in larger pieces of art. But let's see, how does that look? How do we feel about this? I feel like, for me, it's always the crescent moons. When I do these moon phases, it's like, oh, the crescent moons gotta go and be difficult. I love them though. They're so cute. And they're so pretty when you can get them right. It's just... For this, it is a matter, for tiny stuff too, like this, it is a matter of tools. And I actually have a super tiny brush here. I don't know if you can see it. But, sorry about my camera focusing here. But it does help if you have the right tools for the job. Okay, so I think we're good here. So what I do, and this is my phone, I usually just have a reference photo that I've got from the internet. You know, and I just Googled phases of the moon and you can pull up, you know, all kinds of stuff. So just find one you like. I think I found one I liked. And use that as your reference. I do use reference photos. For my full moon, I found this one and I really like it because it's got a nice, lots of nice contrast on it. So that will be my moon that I'm going to model off of my full moon here, and then I'm going to try to use it again as my other moons. So do what works for you, but that's what I'm going to do today. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take some black. Trying to get it so you can see my tools here, my setup. Water down my black a little bit. I'm going to create a little place for some gray, various shades of gray. Okay. And in this moon that I'm looking at here, I see a little shadow here going up into here. What you'll notice too is that the moon is very little white. It's very little white. It's mostly shades of gray and some specks of white, and that's what's going to make it look really, really, really interesting. So whatever you do, contrast away. Okay, and I'm just using my finger to create that. So I'm gonna go ahead and echo what's happening here on this one. So we have, it's surprisingly easy to get kind of lost on this. So I think it's good to just sort of stay with what you're working on, making sure that they're similar. And then you can just bring in some black, you know, blacker spots, darker spots inside the already gray ones here. And I'm just, this is really watered down. I'll show you a close-up what I'm working with here. It's like, it's watery. You can see that. Again, sorry about my lid. I know it's messy, but this is the facts. This is what I use. So, I see a little spot right about here. Oops. Right about here. And we're going to find that here and maybe even here. Yeah, somewhere in there. But it looks like a little bit of a little belly button or something. It's this crater on the moon that's really visible. Gosh, is it even in this half moon? I think it is. All right, we'll go there. Okay, that's not right, actually. Fix that. Okay, and keep going. I'm just going to work on this half as I'm doing this half of the moon and see. So I may speed through some of this stuff, but I want you to know that this project here is probably, like if you were going to sit down and do it, a good couple hours of a project for you. This piece would probably take you a couple hours. Okay? So just keep that in mind when you are sitting down to paint it. The main thing that you want to learn that is important for every artist to learn is how to see your work. It's really important that you learn how to be observant. That really is the key to any art form, in my opinion. Just learn to be observant. Be quiet for a minute and look at stuff. Look at things really closely, really deeply. And see if you can't connect with it in some way. Find feeling in it. Even so-called inanimate objects you can feel. Okay, and if you've never paid attention to before, you've probably heard of the man in the moon. There is a face in the moon. So that sometimes helps me draw it, because it's an eye, a little nose, and then his mouth is kind of all up the side. I know it's blurry right now. I'm going to add some details to this, don't worry. But yeah, various shades of gray, going lighter gray here now. And in the end, really there's only a few places on the moon that are just really light, and really white. We see a lot of shadow, we see a lot of the highlight, but we don't, there's not a whole lot of white. When we look closer. And that's what's going to make it really interesting to look at. Okay. So yeah, I'm just kind of playing with the various shades here. The edge of these moons we'll come back to and we'll fix up. I did a children's paint class. We painted the moon. They really wanted to paint the moon. And I did a class with them and they turned out so pretty. What's fun about teaching kids is that they're very open to their own creativity. They don't worry so much about doing it right the way we do as adults. They just play. And I think that's awesome when it comes to artwork, because that's really what we're doing. So I highly recommend you be open to that. Just playing. Don't take yourself too seriously here. And of course, when we get to the crescent moon's gonna just be, you know, pretty white. I mean, it's as beautiful as the crescent moon is. It's really very simple to paint. And I'm going to come back and clean that up. I know it looks messy, but stay with me here, if you will. Things will start looking better. And feel free to just use your fingers to blend these colors, make them look, you know. The thing about the moon is there's a lot of contrast in it, and there are some sharp points and sharp edges. That's what makes it look so interesting to us, is that it's not this perfectly like smooth thing. It is very sharp and precise at points. So and there's these interesting weird little features on the moon, like this little okay. So maybe while this is kind of drying, so I painted with the paint pretty wet here. It's really watered down. So this might take a minute to dry. Oops. So what I might do in the meantime is take a bigger brush and start painting around the edge of the painting here. And this is just black paint. I'm going to water it down a little bit less. Still wanting it to be able to just paint really smoothly. And water down a little, but not as much as we were doing here. Okay. So I'm going to just maybe do one side of this. Whoops. By the way, here's a tip. Okay, have a paper towel handy, and then just if you make any mistakes like that with acrylic paint, you can dip your like fingertip, right? Here, where is my finger? There it is. Hide your finger inside there. Dip it into the water. And real quickly wipe up your mistake. Okay? It's really easy. One thing I find really awesome when I'm painting with acrylics is that they dry quickly, and you know, you work in layers, they also come up in layers too. So, you know, just because I've made a mistake on that, you know, this little spot, doesn't mean that it's, you know, that I'm gonna pick up the whole painting when I try to wipe it up. I'm just gonna get just gonna get what I just painted down. So you have a little time to work with acrylics, not a whole lot. And again, it depends also on the colors, and just I find certain brands of paints to be better than others, so sometimes it's a paint thing. Okay, so there's that. Okay, and this is kind of cool. I can actually flip this upside down because it's symmetrical, so this is fun. And you can still see what I'm doing. It's always a fun feature, and if you're painting something like that. That way I don't, because I do put my hands on things like my arms and my wrists, because I like to relax and have control again over my painting. So I do put my hands on things. Okay. And sometimes, honestly, I like turning things upside down so that I can see a new perspective on what I'm looking at. You know, you get kind of like sort of stuck in your thinking, like, you know, you think you already know what you see. Turn it upside down and you see something new. And I really like to do that sometimes. Slightly out of the line on some of these, and that's okay because it gives me room to work. Cool. That looks a lot more like a circle to me though. Now that is looking a little weird. That better? Sorry about that. My desk has a little, I should probably take that off if I'm going to do videos. It has a little bar on it that when I lean on it, it kind of pops. And it's annoying, and I apologize. hope my kind of being all over the place isn't too distracting. It really is how I work. I have little projects going on all over the place all the time. Okay. I feel like this is starting to look right. Okay, I'm gonna try to paint this, so I do have to turn it in order to get my hands where I want them to be. You can see that one actually looks pretty good. Like I said, the Crescent Moons are pretty simple, you know. There's really not a whole lot. I mean, you could, I guess, go in and do a very detailed, but alrighty. So while I have this little brush out, I do have this super tiny brush out. I'm gonna just add a little something interesting. I'm gonna just go in and add these some spots. The moon is full of spots. And we'll work these in more here in a little bit, but I just, again, just wanted to show you kind of what I'm doing here. It's not too loud. It sounds like my neighbor's gonna mow right now. And I'm hoping that doesn't get too distracting. Okay. Gone in now with some black, and I'm just adding more shadow. I mean, the main thing here is that you're just using contrast. That's really what's going to make it more interesting looking for you. Another tool I use is my phone camera. And I look at things through my phone camera because it helps me. So I go in, I take a photo. I already did. I take a photo on my camera, and then I can zoom in and see what, for some reason my eyes see differently when I'm looking at my phone. So it helps me to zoom in and find the little things that are maybe not looking right. Also, this light that I'm using is very bright, and it is more for me and not the camera. So let's see here. All right, so this is what I've got going on here. But you just kind of determine what looks good. This also works for your reference photo. You can zoom super far in, and you know, I don't worry about it so much with the moon, but if I'm painting something that has a lot of detail, or if I want more details in my moons, I would do that. But I feel like you kind of get the point across with the moon. People know what you're going for here. Okay, I'm going to create a sort of medium gray here, somewhere in the middle. And this is going to, I'm going to come up in near some of the darker stuff. And this is going to create a little more, even more depth in here. It's just, again, you're working with shades of gray. Okay. And just remembering to kind of reference your moons across the line here, so that, you know, and if your spots are, some of my spots I'm not happy with, so I'm going to go in and sort of work with some of my spots that I've made. All right. So I think you guys get the idea. I'm gonna try to make this video not too super long. I'll probably do this for another 20 or 30 minutes. So just playing with the textures, playing with the colors, and the shadows. I would encourage you all to do that. I will speed through that process though for you here, so you don't have to sit and watch. If you would like videos like that of me actually like the entirety of a painting with you like that, to me, I'm happy to do that. It just seems like a really long video, so I'm gonna try to come up with ways to I really just want to put out content that people will actually watch. So let me know in the comments if you're interested in longer videos. I mean, there's really nothing that I can paint in an hour. I've never sat and only painted for an hour. Most things take me, 2 hours at minimum. So just keep that in mind. But, I can show stages and all of that sort of thing. So just let me know what you're interested in. Okay. All right, so I'm going to play with this. I'll put it on hyperlapse or something. That way you can see me sort of speed through this. And we'll meet up at the next step. Okay, here we go. So if you've made it, I say okay so a lot. I just noticed that. if you made it this far, you could stop here and let this be your painting. But I kind of like if you look at the reference photo here that we're using, you can kind of see it almost has like this peachy, pinky orangeness to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply like a wash over this to give it a little bit more color and depth, and like it's basically like a filter. How I'm gonna do that is I mixed two different colors. I'm gonna play with these two different colors. One is a red oxide here, red oxide, and then this is like a portrait pink. I'm gonna kind of mix those, blend those, and show you how to do a wash. So of course, like I said, you could stop here, put your finish over, your seal over this, and let that be your painting. Or you can take it a little further if you want to add a little depth, a little personality, a little bit more personality to it. You could add some, like a little filter like we're gonna do, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. I'm gonna create a color that I like, and I think it's just this sort of like peachy brown color. I'm gonna really water it down. Okay, super watered down, and just lightly apply that to it has to be dry, of course. It won't work otherwise. You're just gonna mix it. But like I said before, this is the beauty of acrylic paints is that you can paint in layers. You can add this sort of wash over them. Okay, and I think I like this. What do you think? Just go in and I like it. I think I like it. I'm getting a little outside the lines, as you can see. I can fix that, of course. And you could really get interesting with this. First I had the inclination to do like really bright colors, and I was like, that might be a bit much for me today. Let's try this like toned down sort of thing. And then you can play with this in your actual, moon here. Is there anywhere that just you can continue to add even more colors and textures and flavors to your stuff? Do you see how I took a little shade darker there? And now I'm playing with that a little bit, just giving it more color, something more interesting, a little different, more unique and personal for you. Again, just kind of playing with it. Seeing what we like and don't like. Anything you don't like, you can fix. Still trying to tell if I like using this darker color here. I'm not sure yet. But again, it's really the beauty of artwork. We can fix things. Which is why I really hope you don't give up on things. If you make something that you just don't like, I really recommend you figure out how to fix it, because you usually can. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and question is, am I the only one that likes this? I don't know. Sometimes that happens. That's really all that matters too. Is it's your work. Gosh darn it. Okay. A little more shadow in there. Coming back in with some black. Adding more depth, of course. Go ahead and some of this I think I a little bit overdid. I'm going to adjust that. And yeah, so mostly just kind of keep going. That's really what I recommend for every artist, is just keep going. Don't give up. Learn how to work with stuff, which, you know, I really am excited for that to be a little good portion of my channel, is just, you know, working through it. Okay, and a little highlight here. That looks pretty, and maybe one in here. All right, what do you think? I kind of like this. I actually kind of do. Go clean up the edges again. You guys have probably seen me do this 100 times. It's just kind of helps me to keep myself organized and allow me to work freely. Just knowing you can kind of tidy up. around the edge. It's just paint. Okay. I've got a paintbrush that is flaking off a little bit. Alright, something is bothering me. It's probably bothering you too, but it's this edge is just not smooth. And I know that the moon is not perfectly smooth, obviously, but where else? There was somewhere else that was bugging me. There's that. Okay. And this is kind of the tedious part, as you may have been able to tell. It's just getting it to where it's not like going to bother you as far as like the cleanliness and smoothness of the edge. You can probably continue and really scrutinize this stuff forever, but that's no fun. At some point you gotta be like, okay, I'm really all done here. I don't want to work on this anymore. Okay. And again, different lighting. Again, like, you guys probably are seeing things I can't see until I turn it, because I've got the light in such a way that it is hard to see everything. Something I'll work on is figuring out my lighting situation. How we look? Feel like this might be as good as I'm gonna get it, because the day moves on and I like to do other things. So you could keep this like this. You could continue to add more shadow to it if you like. Go at this as long as you can. I mean, that's the thing about art. It's the more time you're going to spend on it, the better it's going to be. That's not necessarily true. I shouldn't have said that. to some degree that's true. I mean, adding more details and things like that obviously is going to take more time, but that doesn't necessarily mean your art isn't going to have or be able to make a statement or be beautiful if you don't, you know, keep going with it and stuff. If you have to get to a point where you're like, I want to stop doing this, just stop. Come back later. It's really okay. All right, I feel pretty satisfied. Actually, I'm gonna add a little more light here. I really want this little spot of light to kind of really stand out, and for all the, you know, I feel like we might have something here. A little bit of white there. A little bit of white here. Okay, I'm gonna call this, hold on, I know I keep saying that. I'm not gonna call this done yet. I kinda wanted to, again, come in around our little crater thingy here. Emphasize him a little bit more. Okay. All right. I'm gonna stop. Ooh. See, this is trouble. This is trouble I run into. I feel like I get to this point where I'm like, ooh, I see something there, and you can kind of keep going. Okay, all right, we're gonna call this done. What do you think? Fill spots in there. Okay, I think I feel quite satisfied with this. The last thing I'm gonna do is show you guys how to seal this, and then we'll be done. Alrighty? Alrighty, last thing last step of any painting process is finishing it off with a varnish. I use this Liquitex satin varnish finish. The finish is really your preference. I like the satin finish because it's not too shiny and it's not too matte. It's some special place in the middle. But you'll need a clean dry brush and just kind of apply your varnish and make sure it's even. This is just going to seal your paint and make sure everything looks really nice and even and pretty. It's not my best technique for applying varnish right now. You typically want to go all same strokes. Just making sure you get a nice even application here. This dries clear and takes a couple hours to dry. I typically do 2 layers. I think they recommend 2 layers. But so you'll wait for one to dry and apply the next. And that's really that. And there you have it. Alrighty, that's all you need. You have your moon phases. So I thank you for watching this video. If you've made it all the way through, I appreciate you doing so. If you will comment, like, subscribe, and share, that would be much appreciated on my end. I thank you very much. Bye.